United States President Donald Trump made a shocking statement about protests that are happening on college campuses. He declared that any college, any school, or any university allowing what he calls illegal protests could lose all federal funding, meaning that they would no longer receive money from the government. But the warning didn't stop there. Trump also stated that students participating in these kind of protests would face serious consequences. According to him, American students involved in illegal demonstrations could be expelled or even arrested, while international students could be deported back to their home countries. This statement has sparked intense debate across the country about free speech, student activism, and the government's role in regulating the protests. Trump made his position very clear through a post on Truth Social, his own social media platform. He wrote, "All federal funding will stop for any college, school, or university that allows illegal protests." He went further to warn that agitators will be imprisoned or permanently sent back to the country from which they came. For American students, he said that they could face permanent expulsion or even arrest depending on their action. He also emphasized that protesters should not wear masks to hide their identities, ending his post with "No mask. Thank you for your attention to this matter." Now, his statement has raised many questions about what exactly qualifies as an illegal protest and how schools will respond to this threat. Trump's comments come at a time when student protests are erupting across the US, mainly in response to the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas. These protests started after Israel launched a retaliatory campaign in Gaza following the October 7, 2023 Hamas attack on Israel. Many students have been taking to the streets, holding rallies, and organizing sit-ins specifically in support of Palestinian civilians affected by the war. The protests had been particularly intense on college campuses, where students often see activism as a very important part of their education and political engagement. With Trump's statement, which kind of seems to be direct response to these demonstrations as he pushes for stricter consequences against the protesters. One of the most high-profile protests recently took place at a college in New York City, which is affiliated with Columbia University. The situation escalated when two students were expelled for disrupting a Columbia University class about Israeli's history. In response, dozens of students stormed a campus building to protest the expulsion, demanding that their classmates must be restrained. The college, although connected to Columbia, has its own disciplinary policy, meaning that it was responsible for handling the punishment of its students separately. The event at the college has fueled a larger discussion about how colleges handle protests, and Trump's latest comment has only added more tension to this particular debate. Trump's use of the term illegal protest has caused confusion among what exactly is the definition of an illegal protest, which can actually vary. Generally, an illegal protest refers to a demonstration that violates law or regulations set by the government or law enforcement. There are several ways a protest can be classified as illegal. Let me give you an example. If a protest turns violent, where people start attacking each other, breaking windows, or setting fires, it is no longer considered peaceful and it can be stopped by the authorities. Similarly, if protesters gathered on any private property without permission, such as inside a business, a private home, or even a university campus that prohibits demonstration, they can be removed or even arrested for trespassing. Another reason a protest might become illegal is if demonstrators refuse to follow police orders, such as blocking major roads, preventing people from entering buildings, or ignoring the curfew. Additionally, encouraging violence during a protest can also make it illegal. If somebody calls for harming anybody or promotes criminal behavior, law enforcement has all the right to intervene and take action. However, despite Trump's threat, the First Amendment of the US Constitution protects the right to protest peacefully. According to the American Civil Liberties Union, Every American has the right to assemble, speak out, and protest against the government. But while people have the right to protest, the government does have some control over how and where protests happen. This is called time, place, and manner restriction. For example, the government cannot ban a protest simply because they don't like its message. But they can set rules on when and where it takes place. If a protest happens in a public park during the day, it is allowed. However, if the protesters use loudspeakers in a residential area at 2 a.m., the government can intervene and enforce noise restriction. Similarly, holding up signs and chanting on a university campus is typically allowed, but blocking classroom doors or administrative offices can lead to legal trouble. The key point is that protesting is legal, but disrupting public order, breaking law, or harming others is not allowed. Trump's statement has sparked a fierce debate about the balance between free speech and law enforcement. Supporters of his position argue that colleges should not allow protests that disrupts learning and that students who break the law should face consequences. They believe that strong actions will prevent chaos and ensure a very safe environment on campuses. Well, wait. On the other hand, critics argue that Trump's threat go too far and could violate the First Amendment. Many believe that students should be able to express their opinion, specifically on important global issues like Israel-Palestine conflict. There is also concern about how schools will respond. Some universities might ban all protests out of fear of losing federal funding, which could lead to a major crackdown on free speech. Looking ahead, there are several big questions. Will Trump actually cut off federal funding to universities that allows protests, or is it just a warning? Will schools start expelling students more aggressively to avoid government penalties? How will students react? Will they continue protesting despite the risk, or will they be discouraged? Well, the battle between student activism, government control, and free speech is only heating up. No matter which side of the debate you are on, one thing is clear: the issue isn't going away anytime soon. The decision in the coming months could shape the future of protest and free speech on college campuses for years to come.